Like, you got to get clear on you first. You are the thing. Like, figure yourself out first, and the things you're looking for will start to show themselves as well.
If you don't love what you do enough to want to be the best at it, we all have something. Like, pick a hobby that you love. Snowboarding, I love snowboarding. Obsessed. Like, literally love being great at it. If you don't want to be good at the thing that you're doing, you probably don't love it that much.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy Sunday. So the episode you are going to hear today is when Alan and I were lucky enough to be interviewed on the WhyPower Podcast with Bianca Thomas and Alan's wonderful second half, Emilia Smith.
Mm-hmm. So back then we were hyper conscious, as you know. And by the way, that was at the very beginning of when we got the studio.
That was a throwback for sure.
Throwback for sure. So now we are Next Level University. But basically in this episode, it was about going all in. It's about commitment. It's about what it's like to really pour your heart and soul and your mind and your body all in to your endeavors, whatever it is. Like, the results that you're going to get in life are entirely predicated on the level of commitment. If you're committed at a level 2, you're going to get level 2 results. If you're committed at a level 10 all in, you're going to get level 10 results.
If you want to get to the next level, you got to go all in. Enjoy this episode, and we will talk to you at the end.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us back again here today. We have Kevin and Alan with us from the Hyperconscious Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in and joining us today.
You are so very welcome.
It's our pleasure. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys, and we're super excited to go deep today.
We're very excited. So as the listeners know, you guys are our first guests, and it is truly an honor to have the both of you here today, because at one point this was just a dream for us, and we know where you're sitting. It was just a dream for you. As you guys are in your new studios, is that leather chairs that you're sitting on?
Some would say leather, some would say pleather, but it looks like leather, and that's what matters.
If it quacks like a duck, right?
Either way, you guys, at one point that was just a dream, which is what we want to focus on today. We will be talking about why going all in matters, and ultimately, its importance and how you can do that. So it doesn't just start off just as a dream. You need to have action towards that. Otherwise, it will just kind of stay up in the air as just a dream. And we were so excited to have you two here with us today, because you two live that every single day. You have gone all in on your dreams, and you're living that every single day. Every choice that you make, from my awareness, is because of those dreams that you have. And so we figured, who better to have on the show than two people who live, eat, sleep, breathe that every single second of their lives. So thank you.
That's a very high compliment. We appreciate that very much. Very much.
Thank you. All right.
You go ahead.
No. Okay. So the premise of our show is WhyPower. And we believe, like we emphasize in every episode, the beginning of it, that WhyPower truly is the key which designs your success and shapes your circumstances. And for me, Bianca and I have different perspectives on WhyPower, but for me, it's more of a spiritual sense, more of a pull towards your greatest, highest purpose. B, do you want to say what your definition or perspective of WhyPower is?
It's just, WhyPower honestly is just the reason you do anything. Nobody does anything without a reason. And the more you can emotionalize it and just really tie it into the greatest meaning for your life, the greater action you'll take on it.
So our first question to you, and if you could picture in your minds, we mentioned this in our first episode. I like to think of having two versions of yourself, one on each shoulder. And you, who you are, is the present version. The one on your left-hand shoulder is usually like the devil version of you. So I like to say that's my past self. That's my lower self. Like, if I'm really lazy, getting me further away from my dreams, I'm listening to that left-hand shoulder, that version of myself. And then there's a second version of myself, which is the highest self on my right-hand shoulder. And that's the person that is helping me decide to choose to be my best self. And then, of course, there's the third version of myself, which is just me here now, in between the choice of being one or the other. So now, with respects to WhyPower and our perspective of it, we want to know and help our listeners so that they get to know you. What is your current WhyPower, both individually, but also as the host of the Hyperconscious Podcast?
Do you want the guy to like the 15-minute guy to go first? Or you want the 5-minute guy to go first? For me, my hope and my goal is always to be the person that I needed. So, without going super deep into the story, I was suicidal at one point. I had what everybody could dream of wanting or having. Like, I had a beautiful girlfriend, the body of my dreams, 6-figure income, brand new car, great apartment, great friends, but I was miserable. So I want to be the person that would have inspired me and motivated me, and that person that I could have resonated at that time with. And, I want people to see like the real behind the scenes of what this takes. Like, we're just regular dudes. We just have really good habits, but it really is the WhyPower at the end of the day. Like, I want this podcast to change the world. Like that's the goal, to prove to countless others, not just for Alan and myself. Like, we want lives of success, but we want to prove to countless others that they can have whatever life they're willing to work for. Keywords being work for. Nothing is handed to you. You got to earn it. So that's what we're trying to share.
Wow, that was a quick one.
Yeah, I know I got to give you extra time. Appreciate that. I've done this 400 times,
So I'll try to be quick on this, but WhyPower is a really powerful topic. And the first thing I want to say about this is, I was telling Kevin before this interview, first of all, my beautiful girlfriend, Emilia, interviewing me, that was never for me a conscious thought in advance. Most of my life is driven through vision. And then Bianca, you're a client and dear friend of mine. So this is just unbelievable. Like, I'm in a room right now with 3 of the people I love most in the world, and it's just unreal. So you want to talk about having a vision and going toward it, and those dreams will come true. Yes, but more than those dreams will come true, because this was never a conscious dream of mine, and it's like unbelievable. So for me, WhyPower is about legacy and about impact and about maximizing my own growth. And I think that from a very young age, and I'll try to make this the shortest version, I didn't have an intellectual relationship with death because my father passed away when I was 2 years old. And I lost something very near and dear to my heart that still drives me to this day in a good way. And I think every time something bad happens, there's always something good that can come of it if you focus there and harness that power. And so I grew up with someone who went through the same circumstances that I did, but didn't always make choices toward her own brighter future. And I'll just be transparent here with my sister. And I've now since reflected on all of this. And what I've come to realize is that we all have, like you said, that lower self that could have been nothing. And then we all have that higher self that could be everything. And what I've realized is that how many times you choose that higher self in any given moment, and the more percentage that you choose that higher self is going to dictate your future. And what I think is that happy, healthy, productive, and fulfilled human beings who are proud of themselves and have self-esteem don't want to hurt other people. They want to help other people. And so I just grew up in certain circumstances that had a lot of wonderful things, but also a lot of suffering. And I saw that it was the choices that I was making and the choices that those around me that were making that caused either the joy or the suffering. And so for me, it's how do we teach more people understand that if we want to end our own suffering and the suffering of those around us, which I think is really strong WhyPower for all of us, we're going to have to make positive choices. I mean, we all at this moment had the choice to either show up to this interview and be at our best, or at least try to be, or, be off at a party on a Saturday or a barbecue. It's like, are you trying to grow, and are you trying to contribute beyond yourself? Because Kevin had the life or death situation. I had a life or death situation. At the end of your life, you're not going to regret the things you tried and failed. You're going to regret the poor choices you made, the people you hurt, the things you didn't do that you should have done or were pulled to do and didn't. And so, long story short, life's about choices. We don't know how long we're here. Who you are is going to matter far more than when you die or how you die. My father, no one talks about how he died. They talk about how he lived, and how you live is a choice every second of every day.
Long story long. I just wanted to just to piggyback quickly. So every day, I was on a podcast recently, and he said, every day I say, what would the best version of me do? And I said, that's great. I do that every moment of every moment of every day, basically. Like, if I throw something and misses the trash, what would the best version of Kevin do? Would he leave it, or would he go get it? And like, at that level, that's how you build a habit. And that's how the hard things become easier. And then just to your point, I appreciate the love for the studio and us as podcasters. This studio is just it's part of the journey for us. Like if we started this and said, hey, we just want a studio. Like I just want to be a podcaster with a studio. We never would have gotten here because we never would have had that's not enough WhyPower for this. Like what we had to go through in order to get this studio is unreasonable. Like I couldn't describe it if I tried, but this is just a pit stop on the way. So our WhyPower has to be very, very, it's going to inspire you. Your WhyPower, like motivation versus inspiration. You're not always going to be motivated, but if you're inspired, you're pulled to do it. And I think that's what real WhyPower is, inspiration.
Yeah, you just touched on that pull. Bianca and I, when we were prepping for this episode, I was saying like, what is like, if we were to redefine what WhyPower is jumping into this episode, because we could go back and look at our quote unquote scripts, how we like what we actually brought to the show every single day in the intro, like, but ultimately like, can we live from our hearts and what can we say that WhyPower is? And the pull really for me, it's more of that intuitive mirror that we talked about in our episode 4. Like that's the intuition. You're like, I feel like we're all very much pulled towards something. How often are we not listening to that pull? And I think you gave us a great example that you can jump off right away. Don't you think? Like, what are some of the things that maybe you guys decided to go all in on?
To be the greatest podcaster of all time, to be the greatest podcast of all time, to be the best speaker in the world, the best husband, father. I just want to be the best me. I'm all in on that. Like I'm all in on becoming the version of me who changes the world. But I also understand like that is painful. Like overcoming junk, overcoming your insecurities, overcoming your fears. Alan and I have had so many difficult conversations almost every time we're together.
Yeah.
Of like, that's not going to fly where we're going. Like we can't say that. We can't be that. We have to be better. We have to be the best. And that's all in on becoming the best version of me. I think that kind of encompasses everything for me, right? Just all in on becoming the best version of Kevin.
So we decided in advance to be the best men we can be, the best character. We talk about this all the time, perception versus reality. There's a lot of people in the podcast industry or the fitness industry, any industry really, where when you meet them, and we've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of these people, their character, their perception far exceeds their character. And we always wanted to be the opposite. We wanted, when you saw the truth, lived in the truth, like witnessed working with us, sweetheart, you basically said recently, like in real estate, you start really getting to know someone when you work with them.
Oh yeah.
And we work with some people co-hosting events and stuff. And it's like, wow, your perception is so much higher than your actual competence and your actual character. So what we went all in on very early on was having the best character of all time.
The longer you spend with somebody, and then we say this, the longer you spend around somebody, the closer to the truth you get.
Right.
Because you can only filter yourself and not be authentic you in person for so long before there starts to be cracks in the armor. And I think that's the other thing. Like I have a really good mirror to look in at all times. I like to think Alan has a good mirror to look in.
I do, definitely.
But we hold each other. We hold each other to that.
Right.
Like Alan, you're better than that. I'm sorry, but you're better than that. Kevin, you're better than that. Like you need to figure this out. And for us, I think that you guys have an amazing partnership. And we always tell you, like, it's very similar to what Alan and I have. Don't know how to explain it to you guys. You're just gonna have to, you'll see. You'll see. But the fact that you guys have congruent goals, it's going to it's going to magnify. It's going to multiply things at a crazy rate. At a crazy rate. So I just love you. I love you, dude.
I love you, brother. I love you too.
All the love.
One more caveat that I would add, if you don't mind quickly, is what did we go all in on? We also went all in on, it's an infinite game. We're not doing this podcast. We were coaching 2 podcasters recently, and we get on dual coaching calls, and we've actually been on one with you guys, which is awesome. And we very quickly realized these guys are awesome. They're great guys. They're great podcasters, but they're in it for, I don't want to say the wrong reasons, but they're in it for something that's right. They're in it to get out of it.
So and they're not all in.
Yeah, they're not all in. Exactly. And this is a good tangible example of, like I said, you guys, from my perspective, my intuition is just saying, go get clarity on your own accord and see if this is what you even really want. And all we did was ask questions to like get them to realize, because they had this one show that went and did really well. And then it stopped doing well because they lost motivation. They said, I lost motivation. And to me, you didn't necessarily lose motivation. You probably lost clarity of why you started and or didn't evolve your clarity as you went. And then they rebranded into a completely different show. And so in our consciousness, it was like, wait a minute, like we said from the beginning, we would never miss an episode. We've got what, almost 400, and we've never once missed an episode. I don't say that to brag. I say that because it's a level of commitment of like, we will literally podcast from the hospital. There's no version of us. I had to upload an episode in an airport. We would have missed the plane. Yeah. We literally would have missed the plane. And that's the level of commitment of all in. It's like, you will never truly live until you have something for which you're willing to die. And we are willing to die for this mission because we suffered a ton early in our life, and we don't want to see other people suffering because of a lack of understanding of what hyperconsciousness can provide.
And the other thing too is understanding that all inness is different depending on where you are in the journey. Like when we started this, we weren't doing 5 episodes a week. Alan didn't have clients. I didn't have clients. Neither of us had the relationships we have. You know, we were doing the fitness thing. We weren't traveling as much. So like all in for us was 1 episode a week to the best of our ability.
And fishing.
And then like try to post on social media or try to do this. When I get on the phone with a podcaster, I like, Kevin, how do I grow? Go all in. Stop half-assing it. You're not posting on social media. You don't have an intro. You don't even have a picture for your podcast. You're not having guests on, and you're releasing episodes whenever you feel like it. Now, what all in means to you, you don't have to be the best in the world if that's not what you want. I think you probably should try because you're never going to be the best in the world most likely anyway. You're going to get closer if you say it. But I do believe that everybody has a different level of all inness. Just figure out where that is to start and then scale from there because it's not easy at the start. Yeah.
I have one more thing to say if it's cool.
Yeah, go for it.
Fast. So what people think they want is actually a byproduct of something far deeper. Like, for example, some podcasters start off and they go, oh, I want a studio and I want engagement and I want to impact people's lives. Here's the problem. If we didn't decide in advance to make this our life, we would never get those byproducts. So what all in means is we have this pendulum we talk about a lot. It's called, what do we call it?
The pain pleasure pendulum.
Right. If you don't get to the point where you're at hell no in terms of a life or death circumstance, death of a loved one, death of a pet, like where you're just like, whoa, like that deep regretful pain of like, you're never going to be at hell yes until you've gotten to hell no. Most people have this lukewarm middle ground where it's like, well, I don't really want that much pain. So you're not going to swing the pendulum up the pain, rejection, failure side, which swings back to success. If you don't want to experience the pain of growing into 5 episodes a week, of becoming the type of person who doesn't hurt others, doesn't affect others negatively, who reads books every day instead of, watching Netflix, like what people think they want is a nice car. What they don't understand is that nice car is a byproduct of financial mastery. And what I'm trying to get people to realize right now is like, you're seeing the surface level results of something far deeper that I just always want to help people uncover. The tip of the iceberg is the least important part of the story.
Right. And that's why I said, like, ultimately it's not just a dream. Like that is the ultimate like point where you set, like you push into your GPS, because that's what you're going to work towards. Everything along the way, like your studio, like this conversation is literally just a byproduct of that WhyPower, which actually gave you the courage in which you pulled you towards that courage to actually try. Like Kev said, like just try. If you didn't have that WhyPower, you wouldn't try. You wouldn't be able to muster up that courage to be able to shoot towards something or decide.
So aside from not having maybe a substantial WhyPower, what other reasons do you guys believe are maybe some reasons why people don't go all in on, whatever they decide?
I think we're probably going to be two sides of the coin here. I think it's belief. I think if you don't believe you can succeed, why would you go all in on something? So I literally made $100,000 and then quit my job to go all in on this, where it was like, oh, I guess we'll see what happens. And I didn't make money for 2 years. So, and Alan helped me so much with the belief because I didn't really have belief early on. But like, if you don't believe you can succeed, what are the chances you're going to drop everything and say like, well, this is my jam now? And like this, and also I want the listeners to understand this. Like, this is our job. Like, this is what we do, every day, not just 8 hours a day. Like, it's Saturday, we're recording this, right?
Yep.
We had book club. I was on book club for 2 hours earlier, right? I'll be working tomorrow. So this is like it's our business. It's not just a podcast. We're trying to turn, and we are currently doing it. We're turning the podcast into a business of coaching, of speaking, of online stuff. So yeah, I'm just ranting, I think.
No, that's your dream. It's it's all a result of that dream and that why power, like because of what you want to do and achieve in the world, being the best version of you as a man, like as a partner, like whatever it is, it's a byproduct of that.
Go ahead, B.
No, so I just wanted to reiterate. So Kev, for you, your answer was not having the belief structure, but then also you needed to have that really strong and passionate why power to even take that chance, even though you didn't fully believe in yourself.
You got to get around somebody who believes in themselves so much that you can borrow some belief from them, because everybody has an idea, a goal, a dream. The people that actually chase it are the people that can, like, if you don't believe you can do it, why would you start? You guys wouldn't have started a podcast if you didn't believe you could do however many episodes, or you didn't believe you were capable of doing it, right? Like, if you're watching or listening to this, there are probably things that you are not doing right now because you don't have the belief that you can do them. And that maybe right now with your current level of skills and standards, you can't do them. But imagine if you believed in the possibility of achieving your greatest goal. Like, that's the thing. I think it's belief, because what is it? 80% of people, The Four Tendencies is a book by Gretchen Rubin. And I think it's like 80% of people are obligers. I think obligers are people who are lower, they have lower self-esteem and thus lower belief. So imagine if, 8 out of every 10 people that you knew didn't chase their dreams because they didn't have the belief. I think it's belief. I know Alan thinks it's something else.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest issues for our listeners that we've seen is not everybody has people in their corner trying to lift them to the next level. And even the people who are trying to help don't always know how.
That's why Kevin and I created Next Level Group Coaching. It's a 3-month program on teams of 10 with all people committed to achieving their goals. Click the link in the show notes for more information.
And we only take 10 people at a time, so make sure you get in quick.
No, I do think it's belief. I think it becomes a different bottleneck once you inject belief. So I think there's layers. So the person, my sister, for example, I don't think she has as much self-belief. And so I don't think when it comes down to the fundamental thing that I like to bring to people's awareness is emotional pain is guaranteed. No matter who you are, where you were born, you're going to have some emotional turmoil. What you do about it is not. You have a choice when you're in emotional pain. You can either escape it or face it. And I know you guys have talked about that in the Mirrors episode I was listening to on the way here. And you either use that emotion to fuel your better self and develop a virtue, or you escape it into a vice. Anything that is an escape is a vice. So like, it can be Netflix, it can be drugs, it can be alcohol. If it's an escape, it's a vice. Here's the thing. Why would Warren Buffett invest in a stock if he didn't believe it would grow? He wouldn't. So personal development is an investment in self. If you don't believe on some subconscious level that listening to this podcast is going to help you grow, why would you take those mirrors? Why would you look at that feedback? Why would you watch someone else succeed when they have all the things you think you want? And so I do think it comes down to belief. If you can inject belief into someone's own ability to create a brighter future on their own terms, and then all of a sudden they'll start investing, they'll start reading books, they'll start doing these things. So if you're out there right now and you're thinking to yourself, have I chosen vice more than virtue? Most likely you struggle with belief, or you have influences that are choosing vice over virtue. Once you do have belief, there is another layer of bottlenecks, and it becomes ego. Ego becomes the issue. On one end, you have someone who's super self-confident, tons of undying self-belief, but now all of a sudden, we talk about the drive to 5. A 10 is someone who has tons of self-confidence. A 0 is someone who has self-doubt and struggles. What I've noticed is that if you start on the self-doubt and struggle bus, and then you get the confidence and get the results, and you get around people who believe in themselves, now all of a sudden, you don't know what it's like to have this self-confidence, and now all of a sudden you think you're good to go. Nobody's good to go. So on the far end of drive to 5, the self-confidence side, they don't think they need a mentor. Not correct. And on the self-doubt side, they don't think maybe they're too afraid to get one, or they don't think they deserve one. So I think the bottleneck depends on where you're at in your journey, but I do think belief is the right place to start. And the last thing I'll say on this is there's 3 beliefs you must have if you want to create a brighter future. Number 1, you must believe it's possible. Have to. Otherwise, you won't even start. You must believe it's possible for you. And then the hard one. This is the one that I see people, they don't have coaching, speaking, all that stuff. it'll be worth it. You have to believe almost to a fault that it'll be worth it no matter how hard it gets. And that's the hard one because it's brutal. Going all in on a dream is brutal. You're going to get laughed at. You're going to get made fun of. People are going to assume you're wrong. You are going to be wrong a lot of the time. You're going to look in mirrors, face fears you didn't want to face, all that stuff. Yeah.
And the other thing too is, and I always say this, and this is like the hyper-conscious part of it. You already have belief. Your belief is just misguided. You just believe you can't do it. Like you already have habits. Maybe you have more bad habits than you have good habits.
Right.
So it's not even about finding the belief. It's about redirecting it. Like if I said, hey, you're going to go up on this stage and you're going to talk to 500 people. You have a belief that you would fail, maybe, right? In this case, say you did. It's not about finding belief. It's about redirecting it. Redirecting it. Why are you going to fail? Well, I've never spoken in front of anybody before. Yes, you have. You're talking to me right now.
Right.
Like, what are you most passionate about? Oh, I love this. Dogs.
Right.
Okay. Go talk for 5 minutes about dogs. Pretend nobody's there. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. There you go. It's just redirecting it.
It's fire.
We like to say that part of your why power is uncovering yourself, like, because really what you want out of life, you already have. And that's very like part of my spiritual side, because I really do believe we are so innately abundant in ourselves. But like, ultimately, you mentioned, both of you agree that belief is really one of the biggest anchors when it comes to going all in on your dreams, whether it be, fear, the fright of speaking on stage in front of someone. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears out there, or like arachnophobia. What, aside from beliefs, would you two say that is the biggest anchor that either one of you experienced outside of yourselves? Because belief, I would argue, is more of an inner anchor that we have, ultimately, lapsed on us by our environments, by the people that bring us up. And so what would you say outside of yourself, what was holding you back prior to going all in?
I'll let you do this one first.
Okay. So between coaching, podcasting, we've interviewed over 100 people. I don't say this to brag. I want people to know who they're talking to. And I'm not just saying this stuff, right? Between all the personal development I've studying myself, studying my clients, I see common patterns. I'd have to be dumb at this point to not notice these common patterns. One of them is definitely a lack of self-belief. Number two is a lack of clarity. If you don't know what you want, you are winging it. You are winging it. And by the way, direction matters more than anything. Trajectory matters more than current results. You can look at Kevin and myself, and I could say, I'm going to be a millionaire. And people out there could say, what do you mean, man? You don't make $1 million. You're not even close to that. And I would say, you're looking at right now. You're looking at us now. This is a snapshot in a trajectory. And where you're headed in terms of your trajectory, we see Tom Brady win a Super Bowl, but we don't see that he was seen as a loser for 10 years before Bledsoe got injured. And I think we don't see Eminem in the trailer park writing raps on a cardboard box. And that's the mistake. We're focusing on the shiny object that is the least relevant to the success. And that's what I see holding people back. If you want everything, you'll end up with very little. This jack of all trades, I want to be well-rounded as a human being. I do. But I think we misunderstand this one concept of Oprah Winfrey, Eminem, Tom Brady, Tony Robbins. Those 4 people, we all know their name. Warren Buffett, 5 people, we know all their names. They all got good at one thing. Oprah Winfrey got really good at interviewing people, thousands of episodes on the Oprah Show. Tony Robbins, it's speaking. Warren Buffett, it's investing. Tom Brady, it's football, being a quarterback. And Eminem, it's rap. All the success, quote unquote, that they have is a byproduct of one skill that they went all in on. And if we could just understand that and get clear on what is the one hobby I would do forever if I couldn't do anything else. I'm not saying you can't do the other things. You can do all the other things, but don't design your life around the irrelevant stuff. Go all in on the thing that your heart is most drawn to, and don't let the shiny objects of the other stuff distract you from your greatest potential.
Discipline, consistency, and habits for me. I think, like, again, we are in a time now where if you're watching this or listening to this on your phone, you have more power in your pocket than people dreamed of having 100 years ago. But also, you have every distraction on the face of the earth. Like, you can watch a movie. You can shop on Amazon. You can do anything on your phone right now. And I think that's the discipline aspect of, like, you have to sit your butt down and say like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to work. I got to get rid of my phone. Like, this is time for me to work. Consistency. How often can you do it? Like, how often, when the luster of what you're doing has worn off, like when the New Year's resolution is 4 months old, are you still doing it? When the podcast gets hard, are you still doing it? When your relationship, seems like it's overwhelming because there's so many other things going on, are you still showing up consistently? Like, that's a whole other thing. And then habits. I think the biggest difference between the person you are and the person you want to be is your habits. Everything we're going to talk about today is a habit. Podcasting is a habit. Journaling is a habit. Fitness is a habit. Positive self-talk is a habit. Relationship habits. Like, everything is habitualized. Again, you already have habits, but how many of your habits are pointing you towards your future, and how many of your habits right now are focused on staying comfortable in the present?
Fire.
So for the listeners, how do you know when you're going all in on the right thing? There's a lot of people who would say, I'm going all in, I'm doing all of these things, I'm dedicating all of this time, but I'm still not happy, or I'm not excited to wake up in the morning. How do they know they're going all in on the right thing?
That's a great question.
I've made that mistake. So I've always had this sort of all in mentality. I used to say, that basically, something along the lines of, I don't even know how to be medium at anything. Like, anything I've ever done, whether it was pro gaming or anything, I always go all in, snowboarding, all that stuff. I made the mistake of going all in on something without understanding the byproducts. So I went all in on wanting to be a Fortune 50 CEO from the age of like 14. And that gave me a lot of clarity and a lot of direction, and my habits followed suit. Here's the problem. I wasn't fulfilled. So I would say the only way to know that you chose wrong is if you're unfulfilled. And I think fulfillment only comes from two main things: growing consistently in the direction of your highest self, and contributing beyond yourself in a way that's congruent with your highest self. I'll give you an example. I help business owners grow and scale their impact. I had this one person reach out to me. His name's Jim, and he wanted me to help him grow his wine business. And I said, Jim, nothing against you, but I don't think that alcohol is a good thing for the world. I personally have quit drinking. I'm not going to help you grow and scale your business. It's nothing personal, but it is what it is. So, and I know why, because I've gone down that road of making a lot of money with something that was incongruent with my heart and my spirit. And so I think you'll know by feeling unfulfilled. If you feel unfulfilled, it's a misalignment. It's not because you're wrong or you suck or you're not getting results. It's because it's a misalignment, and there's always a way to realign. Again, it comes down to choices.
I would say if you're doing something, like, pick something you would do for free and go all in on that. Because if you're going all in on something because you're looking for the result, like, that's a dangerous game to play. It's a dangerous game to play because you're always wondering, when can I get out of this? So Alan mentioned, like, we did a call with a couple podcasters, and I said, why do you even want a podcast? And it was basically like, well, I don't want to do my 9 to 5 anymore. Okay. Well, what are you going to, like, how will you know when you made it as a podcast?
Right.
We don't really know. Right. So it was basically, you're looking for a means to an end. I'm never going to stop podcasting.
Same.
I want a podcast till I can't speak anymore. So for us, it's the long game. What is something that you can play the long game on? Because your level of all inness, like, if you want to be the best at something, your level of all in is a lot different than if you just want to, like, open one store. And again, nothing against that. Make that store the best you can. But your level of all inness is going to depend on your goal long term.
Right.
If you don't love what you do enough to want to be the best at it, we all have something. Like, pick a hobby that you love. Snowboarding. I love snowboarding. Obsessed. Like, literally love being great at it. If you don't want to be good at the thing that you're doing, you probably don't love it that much, right? People who love cooking love being good at cooking. People who love basketball love being good at basketball. If you're doing something that you don't want to be the best at, it's probably because you don't love it that much, genuinely, or you have some subconscious aversion to the idea of being the best, which I totally understand. But, like, the things you think you want are most likely a byproduct of mastering your craft. People want they want, like, a really nice car, but they don't want financial mastery. You have to want financial mastery more than the $80,000 car. And yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
I just have another really quick question, because I've gotten this question a lot, and I think our listeners really benefit from this. I've had a lot of people messaging me saying, I don't know what I want to go all in on. I don't have anything I'm passionate about. There's nothing that I'm inspired to do. What advice would you give people on maybe 1 or 2 tips on how to find something they are passionate about?
I would go the Evan Carmichael route. He basically says that your purpose is in your pain. Like Alan believes it's some deep level that personal development, if it was instilled earlier into his life and childhood, would have changed it. What is he trying to do? He's trying to instill belief in personal development into, especially young kids. Your goal was to get into schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I didn't believe in myself, and everybody I saw online was like super shiny, like wearing expensive suits, and like they had all these degrees. And I was like, that's not me. Like I'm a regular dude with tattoos. I love UFC. I love fighting. I'm a regular dude, but I want people to see me and say like, oh, if he can do that, I can do that too. So I think it's probably deeply personal, and maybe you haven't dug deep enough yet to figure out what actually drives you. Like every day we're learning a little bit more about ourselves. Like, oh, that's why I'm afraid of this. Oh, that's why I feel this way. Oh, that's why I like this.
Yeah, it has been pretty rough.
It's been rough. It's been rough. But if you're not sure of who you are, how do you expect to know what you love to do? Like you got to get clear on you first. You are the thing. Like figure yourself out first, and the things you're looking for will start to show themselves as well.
Great question, by the
That
way.
was a great question.
I would think, if I answer too,
I appreciate that.
I would say look at who you admire and why. If you don't a lot of people struggle with this whole hero thing or heroine thing. Who do you admire in the world and why? If you can really sit with those, and also chase your envy too. Who are you envious of genuinely? And if so, why are you envious? What do they have that you don't? What qualities? I think that's your soul saying you can do that too. So that's number one. Number two, I would say what gets you really emotional. So I have this one story. It's called the Teddy story. I literally have never read this story without bawling my eyes out.
I love this story. Every time you read it, I get emotional watching you say it.
Oh, I told Kevin recently I'm going to start saying it on stage before my speeches, because I just think it touches the heart, and I want to start from the heart. And I always say that before I get on a show. I said that today too, like just speak from the heart. And so I would say what gets you super emotional? We all have that person right now. We can all close our eyes and we have that person we love the most in the world. Every listener, listen, like picture that person in your mind you love most in the world. What would you do for them? And your immediate response was anything. Why don't you do that for yourself? Because honestly, that person that you pictured, it's interesting for me because she's right here.
Yeah, same.
Oh, the best. Oh my God. You contribute to their life by who you become more than anything else. Abraham Lincoln has this really awesome quote. He says, leading by example is not the best way to influence someone. It's the only way. Now, it's not really the only way, but I love that quote because it drives some point home. If you are not working on yourself, you actually are hurting those you love. They deserve the best version of yourself. If you're not going to do it for you, do it for them.
Abraham Lincoln was also a wrestler, so he was also down to earth as well, like me. But he was the best. Tie that up.
You asked me to chop down a tree and I have 6 hours. I'm going to spend 4 sharpening the saw.
Yes.
Okay. We went off the road. We apologize.
All right, guys, as we start to whittle down with time here, unfortunately, we have 3 questions that we want you to finish our sentences on. And this is going to be rapid fire. Kev, go first, and Alan, go second. And after Alan, you finish, I'm going to go to the next one.
Okay.
And then Bianca has one fire question at the end that we're going to ask you and leave the guests on. So number 1, if I were to look inside and attribute today's success to one thing I did for myself, it would be
Believe in myself.
Are we reading it again or you want me to?
Nope, that's all you.
I would say live for something greater than myself.
Okay. If I were to look outside of myself in the external world and attribute today's success, one way I leveraged the resources around me, it was
Humility.
Learning from incredible people.
last one. If I hadn't gone all in, I wouldn't have
Life.
This conversation.
Oof.
Thank you.
Ooh, I got the chills. All right. I can't read far away, so I got to bring my phone up to me. All right. I'm blind. Sorry. If you knew you were to die immediately after this episode concludes, in efforts to create a better world, what's the one message only you can deliver that the world desperately needs to hear? So each of you give your answer to this.
That's a tough one. You are capable of way more than you're currently demonstrating. You just don't have the why power yet. You just don't have the reason. Like I say this on stage. If I walked up to either of you and said, hey, there's a $10 bill in that burning building over there, go get it. You're going to say like, Kev, are you crazy? If I came up to you and said, your family is in that building and they're going to die if you don't get them, you're not going to think about it. You're just going to go. Like I tear up when I say that because I think about that. Like it is what it is. If I die doing it, that's part of it. So like find something greater than you and you will become the best version of yourself in order to achieve it. It's possible. It's possible for you. Your dreams are out there, but you got to go looking for them.
My answer is simple. No one ever talked about how my dad died. If you have an intellectual understanding that you're going to die one day, emotionalize it. And I had a car crash when I was 26 that made me realize that this time is limited and no one's going to talk about it's not going to matter when or how you die. It's going to matter how you chose to live. And the choices you make for yourself and others is going to matter more than anything else.
Those were incredible.
Those are great questions.
Beautiful.
Never been asked those before.
Yeah, I mean,
well, thank you guys. That was truly incredible. And we are like 15 seconds away from our time limit. So we are killing this. So in efforts to really give our guests the best value, where can we have them connect with you? Here's the timer. And what do they have to look forward to for you to bring into the world in the future?
So if you like what we talk about, we are the Hyperconscious Podcast. We have 400 episodes on how to be the best version of you. We don't talk about the weather. Like we talk about the stuff that we think really matters and really matters to us. What are we going to bring into the world, Alan? We love doing live events. We're going to do that. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. Like what we're doing now is the beginning. This train is not stopping. We're just going to keep on hammering, and we're loving every second of it.
Reach out to us if you want to be a better human being, if you're into personal development, productivity, if you want to learn how to do more in less time. Like reach out. Between me, Kevin, and our assistant Amy, we get back to everybody. And even if we don't know the answer, we definitely can point you in the direction of a podcast or a person that we've met. We have a big network, so please reach out.
And if you want to start a podcast, I do free 30-minute consult calls. We'll jump on the phone. I'll help you start. If you already have one, you want to grow, scale it, monetize it, all that happy jazz, I will be glad to help.
And if you have a big heart and want to have a bigger impact in the world and scale your impact online, I do free calls as well.
Sell in.
Yeah, and we will endorse you guys because we wouldn't be in this seat had it not been for the both of your influences and for the knowledge that you have and the skills and expertise that you two bring to the table that we know is a huge culmination of your personal and individual experiences. So
thank you.
Yeah.
With that being said, thank you two so much for your time. We know it is limited.
You two are unbelievable.
Yes.
It's awesome. And like one of my biggest whys is seeing you two, like people like you two flourish.
First guest episode. You guys absolutely crushed it.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see what the future holds for you guys.
Yep.
We love you guys so much. Thank you so much. We're so grateful to have had you guys as our first guests.
You're so welcome.
We love you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Talk soon.